We are now in the time of Ramadan. This is a time where Muslims fast, and this is also the time where the Quran, the Holy Quran, was revealed. Many people ask why, many people in the Western world actually ask, why do Muslims fast? And the answer is that Allah has commanded Muslims to fast. Allah has prescribed several acts of worship to the people to test them, to see whether they obey all of Allah's commands or whether they pick or choose what suits them. But in the end, Allah wants us to please Him, and that's what the Muslims should be striving for. There are 5 acts of worship that are prescribed to the Muslims. One is prayer. Another one is zakah, which is giving from your wealth, giving charity, giving wealth to the poor and needy. Also, Hajj is the third one, pilgrimage, and most importantly, testimony of faith. And if I didn't already mention it, fasting. Some of those acts of worship are purely physical, while others are financial. And some are both. They're coordinated that way to be able to distinguish the miser from the generous. For example, it's easy, and we'll go ahead and go through each one of them. But for example, it's easy it may be easy for someone to pray 100 rak'at, meaning standing in prayer, and it may not be as easy for them to give from their wealth, while others, it may be easy to give from their wealth, but to not pray 100 rak'at, standings in prayer. Going into the 5 acts of worship, we're just going to go over 4 of them. Prayer, for example, it doesn't. Prayer requires that as a prerequisite. It's purely physical, but it has a prerequisite, which is you need to be on wudu. You need to wash your hands, your feet, and your face, and there's a specified way to do that. While zakat, giving charity, is purely financial. But it does have a prerequisite as well. It requires you to calculate your wealth and transfer that to zakah and give it to the poor and needy. And fasting is done in order for your sins to be forgiven. Now, keeping those in mind, Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen was asked why fasting was enjoined, and his reply was, well, we're going to read the ayah in the Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 183, and it says the following in terms of fasting. So Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 183, check that out. I'm just going to read the English translation. O you who believe, observed as Sawm, as Siyam, fasting, is prescribed for you as it was prescribed for those before you, that you may become al-muttaqeen, which means the pious. Now, Sheikh Uthaymeen was referring to that verse when he answered the question. His reply was, if you read the words of Allah, which is the verse I just read to you, Surah Al-Baqarah, we will know the reason why fasting was prescribed, which is taqwa, piety, and submission to Allah. Taqwa means giving up the haram things, and in general terms includes both what is commanded and abstaining from what is forbidden. Forbidden includes backbiting about people, telling lies, spreading malicious gossip among them, and avoiding all haram things. The Prophet, may the peace and blessings be upon him, has said several hadith about fasting, which I want to share with you. On the authority of Sahal bin Sa'ad, may Allah be pleased with him, who reported that Allah's Messenger, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, had said, in paradise there is a gate which is called Rayyan. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Through which only the observers of fast will enter on the day of resurrection. None else will enter with them. It will be proclaimed where there are those who fasted regularly. They will step forth. None else would enter but them. When they enter, the door will be closed, and then no one will enter through that door. Here's another one. On the authority of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, may Allah be pleased with him, who reported that Allah's Messenger, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, had said, every servant of Allah who fasts for a day for the sake of Allah will find his face farther from the fire, parentheses, or hell, to the extent of distance to be covered in 70 years. On the authority of Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, who reported that the Prophet, may the peace and blessings be upon him, Allah's Messenger, may the peace and blessings be upon him, had said that who fasts during Ramadan with faith and seeking his reward from Allah, his past sins will be forgiven. And last but not least, on the authority of Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, who reported that the Prophet of Allah, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, had said, when Ramadan begins, the gates of paradise will be opened, and the gates of hell are closed, and the devils will be chained. Okay. The purpose of fasting is not just to feel hunger and thirst. It's to become pious. It's also to abstain from un-Islamic things such as backbiting, lying and cheating, getting angry, being rude or impolite to Muslims or non-Muslims for that matter. It includes looking, touching, and flirting with non-mahrams, which is not allowed, by the way. And also not engaging in riba, which is also a word for, it also means interest, another word for interest. So that is the reason why we fast on this blessed month of Ramadan.